Welcome back, everybody, to episode 126 of Puppet Masters and Castle Freaks, the internet's leading all things Charles Band podcast. I am one of your hosts, Jared Hornbeck, the podcast host whose voice shames the nightingale. And I am taking a break from what I generally am doing this time of day, which is throwing garlic in demons' eyes, to record a podcast for all of you. But I am not the only person scouring around the city, beneath the city. No, who else is here with me?
Well, it's me, shit guy, Steve Guntley, and don't touch my wine or my daughter. This is the podcast about graveyard dances, folk song karaoke, and a noticeable lack of tiny little blood monsters. Have to say, where are the little guys? That's because this is the podcast about Subspecies 4 Bloodstorm and Subspecies 5 Blood Rise, the final two chapters in our ongoing saga of the Subspecies franchise. That's right. We are bringing it all to a close. We're also going to sprinkle in maybe a little bit of another movie in here if our guest is so kind enough to indulge us, because we have an amazing guest returning to the show, the only person who could really help us do justice to closing out this franchise. Who is joining us here today, Jared?
Yes, the only person who could do justice to closing out this franchise. You know her, you love her as Michelle, as Helena. I mean, just one of our best reviewed, best feedback given shows that we did early in our run. Denice Duff is back. She's back. We thought when she left, she closed the door, slammed it behind her.
Slam that coffin lid.
Come back. Thank you, Steve. You beat me to that one. But she has agreed to come back. And what I love about this is to talk about some, I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but like, less revered, less prestige full moon projects, with the exception of Subspecies 5, which we'll get to. But Denice, we're so excited to have you here. Thank you for coming back.
I am so super honored. Except for the less revered. You know, you got to edit that one out.
I will defend.
I'm going to cut that out. I'm going to cut that out.
Like hell, you will. I'm going to defend my words there, because I was particular in how I was choosing them, and I'll be more purposeful when we get into the exploration of them by what exactly I meant.
Well,
it is true. I mean, when you hear like puppet masters and trancers, there's certain when you think of the big. So maybe Subspecies is fourth.
Oh, well,
yeah,
I guess maybe that was a little confusing, and I apologize for that. I didn't mean Subspecies as a property. Like, I think Subspecies as a property is very well revered.
Maybe the most
revered. Maybe the most prestigious, actually, of all of them. We're getting now into some entries, and definitely we'll talk about Full Moon at the end of Kushnerlock and the beginning of Shadow Entertainment.
Sure.
And where the company was going from there.
Were you guys fans then? Were you guys, I mean, you're young.
No, I came onto it a little later. I was very much like, we've talked about how we were video store kids, right? So like, we just kind of go off on our own and like read all the boxes in the video store. And I just kind of memorized every one of these VHS boxes. And I remember Subspecies being something I was super curious about, but I was never allowed to rent, and I would just read all the horror section and look at all the gore on the back of the boxes. And that was kind of my little entryway into the world of horror was doing stuff like that.
Yeah, I was a horror kid too, and I've been like super obsessed with the genre to like an encyclopedic point for the last like 35 plus years. But Subspecies was one, I swear. Now, for people who listened to our Subspecies 1, maybe even the Michael Verratti Subspecies 2 and 3 episode that we did, I think I mentioned the first Subspecies. I think I saw it on cable in like 1991, but I didn't know what it was. I think it was one of those movies I must have like dozed off on the couch and was channel surfing, and I was kind of like, I don't know what this is, but it's a vampire movie, but it's in Europe, and it's kind of gothic, and it's maybe I don't know at the time that I would have been discerning enough to know it was a lower budget movie, but I just was like, it's a gothic vampire movie.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I started to get interested in Full Moon as a company and Charles Band as a person that I made the connection, which was really only probably like 5 years ago, where I was like, oh wait, Subspecies, yeah, that's the vampire movie. And then it wasn't until about 3 to 4 years ago maybe that I was like, let me check out some of the sequels. And then when I put on Subspecies 2, and I'm not just saying this because you're here, Denice, I put on Subspecies 2 after revisiting Subspecies 1, and like 15 minutes into the movie, I was like, this rules, and this is so much better than the first.
We were like, yeah,
movie.
yeah, I had the same moment where I'm like, okay, I kind of get it now. Like, I wasn't really on board at first. Like, I had some stuff, but like now I get it. Now it's kind of clicking. Yeah.
Yeah. So compared to our fans, we probably came to this very late. Like a lot of people who listen to the show have stories of renting the Full Moon VHSs back then and being part of the Full Moon fan club and watching all the video zones and stuff. And I lament the fact that I didn't have that, because when I first discovered the video zones, I was like, I had seen Reanimator is not a Full Moon movie. It's a movie that was distributed by Empire.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, Reanimator, since I was maybe 13 or 14 years old, has been in my top 5 favorite movies of all time.
Right.
So there's movies
so there's
that Charlie Band was involved with that I loved, but I never really was like a brand guy.
Yeah.
And then just reading It Came from the Video Aisle, and then thinking about how crazy and guerrilla filmmaking this low budget company is, and just getting a lot of respect for Charlie and his business model and all these companies. Then I just kind of went full steam into all of this. And I know it was a little bit of a point of contention with some of our listeners early on. A couple of people kind of reached out and were like, I like the fact that you're doing a Full Moon podcast, but it's clear that you guys are not like super fans, because we were a little more critical, I think, in the beginning.
Oh my God.
We came around on it.
That?
Well, yeah, we wanted to kind of take a stab at it, and so obviously, Denice, you joined the Subspecies franchise for part 2. You came in and you sort of stuck with it from there. When 3 was over, so because we covered in the previous episodes, you shot 2 and 3 back to back, kind of in a 3-month period in Romania. Did you think there was going to be another one? Did you think that you were done?
No, but as an actor, you always want to know that if you're in any kind of a film that has a number at the end, that number can just keep going.
Right.
And that was the heyday of sequels. Definitely. It wasn't unheard of that things were going into bigger numbers, but 3 was kind of a little max. And, but it definitely faded the ending. So and when you love each other so much, the cast and the crew, and you've got something going on. Now, that was really my first venture into this horror world. And we didn't even know that we were going to Europe. I mean, when I booked this thing, I thought, and I knew that Charlie Band had some ties in and got some money from Paramount. So I thought we were just going to shoot this at Paramount. And then that we were going to Romania.
Mm-hmm.
We were told we were flying into Bucharest, and we thought it was Budapest. Me and Kevin and Melanie Shatner, who played my sister, William Shatner's daughter. So in our minds, like people go to Budapest. That was the hip place, right?
Yeah.
Where you go to Budapest. And in our heads, we kept thinking we were going to Budapest. And of course, we were in Bucharest. So every time something super third world, super time destructive to our schedule would happen, like electricity would just be done for the day. Like, sorry, there's no more electricity. The shipment of water didn't make it on the train from Germany. There's a bunch of sheep in the road, and we're going to be an hour and a half delayed because the shepherder has a really bad back. So there would be, and anytime one of those things would happen, or when the hair designer plugged a curling iron into the wall, sparks went, and the fact that she herself barely budged, that little vignette made it on behind the scenes, and you could see Melanie Shatner freaks out, but the crew were like, they're just
like, that again,
with their cigarette, But anytime those things would happen, me and Kevin and Melanie would say, remember, it's Bucharest, not Budapest. We were just loving this like world where anything could happen. And that kind of was, that was fearful in itself. There was nothing cushy about our environment. I mean, my outfits had to be sewed onto me.
Oh, yeah.
And then with a little seam ripper cut off at the end of the day. There wasn't a lot of bathroom facilities when we would head out into the forest, and it was kind of cool. I'm like, oh, I'm just going to have to pee in the forest the way somebody would these days, and So I don't know how I got onto this subject, but I think I know, you took a pause.
That was my fault.
Yeah,
I'm so
that'll
sorry.
happen.
I should have
That's
known
what you
better.
get. So
Another victim of Steve Pregnant Pause Guntley.
right. No, it was. Did you think there was going to be a sequel? So when I was told about the sequel, at that point, it was, let's see, in 92, 93, and then like 4 years later, because now at this point, I was married when we shot it in 92, and then I had a kid who was like 3 years old now. I didn't have a kid before. So and I cut my hair short, so I had to put in these hair extensions, and I looked a little like Howard Stern. A little like Howard Stern. For anyone going back and looking at that, I shouldn't be saying that. I'd like for you to always think I'm ever lovely and ever radiant, but a little stern.
I mean, look, you're lovely and radiant, but also Baba Booey. Like once in a while, you just gotta say Baba Booey.
Yes, the whole thing.
You're lovely and radiant, but you're wearing a fart man costume. It's confusing. You're sending mixed signals.
I'm here for it.
Yeah.
So I got, I was very much not in that frame of mind of playing that character again, but thrilled. And Melanie she decided to go into clothing design and had a store, and Kevin had been killed off. So what was it? Oh, I think Kevin was on Young and Restless. I mean, not Young and Restless. He was on Days of Our Lives, I think. So it was hard for him to get out.
Okay.
And then Melanie. And Melanie wasn't acting anymore. And so that's why the very beginning of that script, they just decided to kill him in a car accident.
They do like a full Alien 3 of just like, these are the survivors from the last movie.
Yes.
Let's kill them off screen. Yeah, let's move on with the one survivor. Yeah.
Well, it seems like we're getting into a little bit of the production of Subspecies 4. So, Steve, why don't you fire off a few stats about the movie?
I'll bring us in here. Subspecies. I will try not to pause. Subspecies 4 was released December 8th, 1998. It was written and directed by Ted Nicolau, and it stars Denice Duff, weird, Anders Hove, Jonathan Morris, Yona Aber, Mihai Dinvali, Floriela Grappini, and Jon Hayduk. I probably butchered many of those Romanian
No,
names.
you did it justice.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Now, like we said, so Subspecies 3 was shot back-to-back with Subspecies 2, like we said. And the end of that movie seemed pretty definitively like the end, right? Radu had his whole face impaled on a tree branch, and then he caught on fire. Like, hard to walk that one off. And there was, from what I understand, not originally an intention to go ahead with the story, but Full Moon's financial fortune started to fail a little bit as we got into the mid to late 90s, and Ban needed to go back to one of his most reliable series one last time. So the problem was, the money that was there in the Full Moon era, which already was not necessarily a lot for a lot of these productions, was basically all but gone for the Kushner-Locke era. Now, we're kind of big fans of the movies that came out during this time. Like, there's a lot of really weird and wild, and like there's kind of an unfettered creativity and like just kind of balls to the wall sort of attitude about these movies. I'm talking like, most of the stuff with Jackie Lavelle, honestly, Head of the Family and Hideous and all of these movies, like, but they really kind of Blood Dolls. Yeah. All these movies where they're really kind of going like all out and really embracing kind of this camp horror aesthetic. But it's undeniable that the budgets were significantly less. And the problem with Subspecies when it comes to this regard is that we've kind of been given 3 movies that are like fairly sumptuous sort of productions.
You
we
took the word right out of my mouth, Steve.
Word.
Yeah,
Were you really thinking of that word?
I was literally. You cannot see in part of my notes here.
Really?
This says right here.
That's a serendipity.
It says under my Subspecies.
I was just thinking of the word
there's
serendipity.
Bullet point. There's a bullet point here, and I wrote it, shorthand, but I wrote not sumptuous.
Yeah.
Get out. And you guys are meant for each other.
I'm telling you, we have a weird hive brain sometimes.
Steve is absolutely right, and I'm fascinated, and so I'm so happy to have you to talk about this kind of. I don't want to call it. It wouldn't be unfair to call it a transition period for the company because they're still churning out a lot of really interesting movies. But the Kushner-Locke budgets were significantly smaller, and you're going back to Romania to shoot. And like Steve was saying before I interrupted him so rudely,
Sorry.
there's a lushness also to the Subspecies movies, and it's a really great utilization of location shooting. So the Bucharest that they're using in the movie is amazing, a lot of amazing locations and a lot of outdoor stuff where you really get the scope of Eastern Europe, like at
Yeah.
that time. And I feel like maybe one of the hindrances of the smaller Kushner-Lock budget allotted for Subspecies 4 is a lot of stuff is close up, a lot of stuff is inside, a lot of stuff is, small, couple rooms and sets. There's a few times when it gets outside, but it always feels like it's shot much more close up. There's not like an expansiveness to it. So like, what was the process like? How was the process of making Subspecies 4 under these constraints different from the movies that preceded it? And also, this will tie in, I'm sure, too. I'm curious, and I'm sure Steve and our listeners are too. How is Bucharest different even 3 or 4 years later? Because I know it was so turbulent when you guys were first there.
That's a great question. That's almost like you asked me, what do I want to talk about?
Yeah.
That second part, because the going there in 92, it's very broken, right? They had just really become free from communism, and it was really a learning experience for me as an American who didn't really understand a lot of that. And I guess pre-internet, you don't know as much about that unless you're really seeking out the news and you're reading the books and you're staying awake during history lessons. And there wasn't a lot of data out there readily available of like, how does someone live in a communistic world, right? And so they had everything done for them, and now they don't. And so in part 2 and 3, like some of the people who like some of my victims, a woman, that kind of heavyset woman who I had to bite her neck. I had a lot of time to spend with her because we had some money, and they took time to light the street and to light the proscenium and the Orpheum and the whatever these opera houses, right?
Yeah.
So they were really like lighting that street beautifully for, as I walk down and as she's walking down, just some little Romanian thing, and I ravage her. And those sort of scenes were not really, the time wasn't taken. But during that time that I just got to hang out with her, she actually preferred it better when it was under communist rule, because she got to be more of a star in more propaganda type films or films that the government would do. And now that the government wasn't doing films, and it's really like up to, creatives, and there were no creatives left. Like that was all so suppressed. Ceausescu basically did not allow the arts, music, all of that. And there was a really cool FU that happened in that they made theaters and art schools out of like the old parliament and like out of all these government buildings that he had taken, right? And so the translator was saying, yes, that is now a teatro for the children. And you could see the bullet holes in the building because it was, like all these
fascinating.
Right. So they really just were bringing arts back. And but now a lot of the artists, to make a buck, the only thing available to them was to play subordinate roles in like, a French film that needed to use the location of Romania, or in our case, an American film.
For context, again, for our listeners, Subspecies 1 was the first American film to film in Romania. So you guys, by the time you got there, there've only been like one or two. Like you're still one of the first.
Yeah. In fact, it was such a new thing that it wasn't even like they came huddling around like, oh, there's a film being made. Like they didn't even understand what a camera that's doing that in a set and these lights, like it didn't even occur to them. And, okay, granted, we weren't Meryl Streep or Robert De Niro, but actually they didn't even really know who they were.
There you go.
The two big celebrities, when we would go into people's homes, because we used people's homes to change clothes, and because they had very few trailers, and the trailers were to store all the equipment, and we could either just change, tuck behind a door, but they always had locals And of course, I will do anything to maximize my experience. And so I love going into the locals' home. But Michael Jackson, Elvis, and Marilyn Monroe. And this is 1992,
Okay.
you know? And that
I'm surprised Michael Jackson made the list. Yeah.
Michael Jackson's picture was in so many of these homes.
That's interesting.
But and a Mustang, pictures of Mustang cars and Marlboro.
It's just kind of like this like vague Americana.
Yeah. Right. So the difference. Oh, and no cell phones, right? And then cut to, what year did we do part 4? 1998.
98 was when it came out. Yeah, so I imagine I'll show it that year.
Filmed it in 97. Yeah, my daughter was born in 94, so she was 3, 94. If I did, 3. So when we went back, number one, not only like did people have cell phones, but like gypsies on the street had cell phones. Some of the crew who had horrible teeth, like one guy in particular, he became so freaking hot. I'm like, oh my God, like I couldn't even look at him. He was so handsome. Whereas prior, his teeth were just blackened little pieces of chiclets, you know?
Yeah.
And then he had this mouth full of beautiful teeth. And so, and then of course you see now there's a KFC and there's a Domino's. And so there were a lot of changes that had occurred. And, but the best, of course, was seeing the old crew that was there, looking a little more vibrant, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome.
A little more self-care, as the girl who has a skincare company now like to notice. But you would ask me, that was the second part of your question. Your first, the difference. Oh, the locations. Yes. Taking the time. There was less downtime because there was less cash, right? The whole film was done in under 3 weeks, 3 weeks. And that was sort of a bummer too, because we took 12 weeks, right? 4 times 3. Yeah, it was 12 weeks to do 2 films. So 3 weeks for 1 film. It's like you don't have an opportunity to like, hey, I'd like to try something this way. Or what if I walk into the scene in this way? And it's like, well, this is what we're confined to.
Yeah.
But I will say I didn't notice it as much. I noticed it a little bit, but I really noticed it when I saw the finished product.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm not always looking through the camera, and it was very dark. And I believe, and you would know the answer to this, so part 2 and 3, that they were shot on film, correct?
Yes. Yeah, I think this is video now.
Was the first that was in video, and that was also, to me, noticeable. There was a lack of depth to it that film could give you, but also video now can give that to you. But video was very new then.
Yeah.
Right? And post-production and just the cameras, just the video cameras then to now are very different. And I felt that it suffered.
Yeah. I will say, I think it's a testament to the talent of Ted Nicolau that it manages to look as good as it does, being shot on video and being shot for the budget and the time constraints.
Totally.
I imagine that he must have been frustrated. I don't want to I'll speculate on his behalf here because
he's an artist. He's a total artist. Yeah.
But he, with Subspecies 2 and 3, it was like Charlie Band was making money. Paramount had a lot of faith in the product that Charlie was putting out on video store shelves. And so he was getting bigger budgets for things and I think you somehow organically save time when you shoot movies back to back also, and save money and stuff like that. But he also, between Subspecies 3 and 4, he made a movie, Ted Nicolau did, in Romania called Vampire Journals. And Vampire Journals is a movie that had hit a lot of production delays, and as a byproduct they ended up with like a lot of extra time on the production, which ended up working in the movie's favor. And it came out one of the most gorgeous looking full
Yeah.
moon movies of that time.
Yeah.
And I feel like he must have felt handcuffed with part 4, where it's like, I'm shooting on video, I have less money, I have less time, I don't have any less grand ambition or ideas, but I have my avenue for how to, accomplish those is what's hindering me a little bit. So I can imagine after to use the word, what is allegedly the word of the day, maybe the most sumptuous of all full moon movies, Vampire Journals.
You could make an
And
argument. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and then to go to Subspecies 4, I think there are stuff in it that works, and I think but it is the first, I feel, of the Subspecies sequels, because I do think it operates on a level with 2 and 3 that is missing from part 1. I always felt like part 1 is like a seeds of an idea and a location, but it wasn't like too much emphasis on the subspecies themselves. And we realized we didn't really need them quite as much. But I think in Subspecies 4, there is as much as it could be dark and murky in some of the places because of the lighting and because of video, I do think a lot of the gore comes across still pretty well.
Yeah.
I think there's some good bloody moments. I will say there's an excellent decapitation.
There is, yeah, very good one. And well, I have to tell on Denice a little bit here, because last time you were on the show, I think like before you even started recording, we had made an offhanded reference to Subspecies 4. And you I forget if you pulled a face or if you actively swore, but it indicated to me that maybe this isn't one that you hold in the highest esteem among the Subspecies movies.
It's not as pretty, and it's not as pretty, but it's awesome. The idea is such a brilliant idea, right? I mean, it's I feel like isn't that what there's that comic book that's out there? Someone did a Subspecies comic book, they've got the Michelle character, and she kind of looks a little like me, and there's like blood in the refrigerator, and it's kind of just this idea of like, how would you do blood transfusion modern? So I thought the idea was super cool. I mean, my own vain problem with my hair.
Oh.
I remembered a sweet Romanian guy was walking me down the hall to set, and he kind of just put his hand in my hair to just be nice. And as he pulled it down, one of the strands of the hair extension was in his hair and his hand. And I'm like, oh, I'll take that. Thank you. I'll see that. You didn't see anything.
Yeah. See, I showed you a little bit of my notebook before. What you didn't see was that scribbled here, I wrote, looks like Howard Stern.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah. See,
I'm
he
joking.
clocked it early.
Right.
I mean, well, I just to say like that had me kind of prepped, and this was the only Subspecies I had left to see. I've seen every other one except for this one. So you had me kind of prepped to really struggle through this movie. And I have to say, I do think this might be the lowest of the Subspecies series, but if this is the lowest, that's still doing pretty good. Like this movie is still perfectly serviceable. I think my big problem with it was that it ultimately kind of felt like it wasn't utilizing the things that really made the series special. So it kind of felt like Subspecies, like Diet Subspecies to me. Like it felt like we were missing some of the elements, including, if I might say, you were kind of sidelined. The Michelle character was kind of sidelined for much of this movie after being the focus for like the last two. And Anders Hova was also sidelined a little bit. Like we're spending a lot of time with these new characters, which are all Romanian actors for the most part. And they're all speaking English in a heavy Romanian dialect, and I just kept wondering, like, if they're all just like, if you have nothing but Romanian actors on screen, why not let them speak Romanian? We could read subtitles. They have a beautiful voice. Like, I bet it would help them feel more comfortable in their performances. And Well,
I told you. Did I tell you about the lead actor, the face, the guy?
Oh yeah. What is his name? Mihaly.
Dinvali.
Mihai Dinvali,
Yeah.
Interesting guy, yeah.
How he speaks no English?
Oh, really? He spoke none at all?
Everything he said, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this.
I think the statute of limitations has passed on this now.
It's true. It was all phonetic. And so, obviously he understands what he's saying because he translates it. But when you... he would have to get coached, and Ted was lovely with coaching him, because sometimes you have to put a stress on a word in the right place. Like if I were to say, you know, I'm so glad you could make it to dinner today. Thank you. It would come out, I'm so glad you can make it to dinner today. Right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Like you get all the beats, you get all the letters, but there is just, it's a new language for you. And
this is blowing my mind, because now I'm wondering, has Christopher Walken just been speaking phonetically this whole time?
I think there was actually, not to kill your joke with facts or anything, but I think there is something to that. Like his parents, Christopher Walken's parents, were like Eastern European immigrants. And so he learned how to speak from them learning how to speak. So he is kind of doing that. Just like, yeah. So
okay, that makes
not
makes
to make your joke
sense.
less funny by confirming its accuracy, but you were on to something.
So we have Romanian actors, you know, with limited grasp of English, subbing in for
I
the
already
roles.
have my money's worth out of this podcast. You just have to know this is so much fun for me. Okay?
I'm glad.
Oh, that's a delight. Oh man.
But we have these Romanian actors, you know, who don't have a great grasp on English, maybe as a first language. And like Steve said, they could have them speak their native language and put subtitles. It would be a choice. You also have what I find to be the beautiful voice of Jonathan Morris, who's also underutilized in the movie.
Yeah. He's the element that's tying this movie to Vampire Journals, right? Because that's when we got introduced to that character.
Correct.
And he's going to continue on into Subspecies 5, so we're going to get a little bit of his origins as well. So I was a little surprised to see him like brought into the fold, and in kind of like a sycophantic role, kind of like a sort of like a subservient second banana to Radu. I can actually kind of appreciate that. I don't know, maybe I missed it, but I don't think they explain how Radu came back. He just kind of shows up one day. I don't remember if they go into the details about how he survived that last attack, but
I'm trying to remember now, and I don't remember either.
It melts, right? He melts. Wasn't it just the subspecies, right?
Right. Yeah. Because it
was just they just patched them together. I mean,
yeah, that's kind of the role that the subspecies characters sort of came to play. The first movie, they're kind of minions. In this movie, they're sort of like, this is how these vampires continue to survive, is because their blood becomes sentient. They breaks off in these little pieces and they reconstitute themselves later, which is a cool idea and pretty novel for a vampire. Like, and it's, to that regard, it's a kind of a shame we don't really see any sign of them in this one, just because I always love a stop motion puppet as well, you know, and those ones always looked so awesome. So it's a shame not to get them here. But I mean, there is just kind of like, I think the shot on video thing wasn't really helping. Like there was kind of an odd vibe that we've noticed like Charlie Band was doing with a lot of his movies around this time, which they're kind of pitched almost like a syndicated movie, like remember when they would do like Hercules or Xena movies like back in the day?
Oh yeah.
They kind of feel like the pitch of that. Like this movie even has almost like an opening credit sequence, like with like a Buffy style montage.
It's
like
very
all the things that happened in the other
Buffy
movies.
Style montage.
So I'm like, oh, Subspecies TV show. I can kind of get on board with that idea, you know. And then we've got Michelle in a very interesting place because she's kind of no longer ambivalent about being a vampire. She's kind of like jumping in and sort of embracing like the monster, which had to be pretty fun to play. I can imagine, right? Like you're no longer like kind of this torn between like you were kind of like a victim for a lot of it. You're being pursued for a lot of it. You're very anguished, and now you're just kind of like, yeah, no, blood, give me it. Yeah,
that exactly. And yet though, I was always being directed to manage that. You know, there were definitely some takes where it was like super full on. And I guess the fact that you're seeing what you're seeing is the perfect dance that Ted always kept me a little tortured still, you know, like I wasn't the queen of the vampires, you know? So he just always, and I admire that. There's just always still the tiniest bit of mortality in her.
Yeah.
But it was, I was like, okay, this is the one where I'm fully in. And as an actor, it's nice to just make one choice and really go for it. But,
Mhm.
you know, really at the end of the day, I mean, if you're playing full on shit-faced drunk, you're still going to have to play, oh, wait a minute, but I can't show it because the police are driving by or whatever the scene is, you know?
Right.
And in life where, you know, we're always going to be super happy, but then we're like, oh gosh, I can't let her see that because, you know, I can't let the girl next to me because then she's going to feel bad because she just lost her parents. So I can't be super happy, but I am super happy. So really in life, we're never just playing one thing. And as much as I was wanting to just go full on, now I've bought into this whole vampire power. I get to show it, play it, drink it. Ted still would always have, there was always another take where I had to sort of bring it down a bit.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like I think it's still a perfectly fun movie. I think it's like definitely worthwhile. Like if you're going to watch the series, like it's worth kind of going through the entire thing. It might be maybe like the lowest point just in terms of like the production that you guys kind of missed out on a little bit, but there's certainly not a lack of effort here. There's not a lack of love. I imagine it was a little hard for you though, because you know, you've talked about previously how you and Kevin Spiritus became like besties on that first movie, and you know, you really bonded over those first two. Like, was it hard not having him and Melanie there, like with you? I mean,
it was, and the sweet girl, Juana.
Ioana Abur,
she was super lovely, and we became nice friends. She did have a hard time of like, I felt like I had to big sister her and, you know, like, did I do the take right? And does the director think I'm good enough? And, you know, and do I look pretty, you know, and just all the same girl things. And that can take a week, you know, for an actress to feel very comfortable. And you sort of don't expect that. I just feel like you got the gig, like,
yeah.
You know, like you're accepted, you know.
It's so hard to, as an actor, it's so hard to wrap your head around that.
Yeah.
It's like you have to keep going back. It's like, oh wait, no, they cast me in this thing intentionally.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
And I think on top of it, what made it even more was the cultural aspect too. You know, there wasn't that like Hollywood toughness of like, you lose a job, you finally get a job. Great. You know, this was like, probably I had a lot more gravitas for her, you know, so I just remembered it was a little, for me, trying to just really make her feel great. And she was just super lovely, a lovely actress. And the dude, you know, I enjoyed trying to learn a little bit of Romanian so that I could speak with him, speak my Christopher Walken Romanian. But yeah, to not have my team, which is why when part 5 was happening and there wasn't a budget or a cast or a role for Kevin, I was like, all right, we can negotiate the money. All right. Like this is, you know, and you get to a certain point in your life and in your age and in your career where, you know, you beg, borrow, and steal money to pay your rent, but just be able to do your art. You know, like what else are we living for? Right.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I think this is a great opportunity. I think, you know, you might think the natural segue would be to go from Subspecies 4 to Subspecies 5, but I'm interested right now in that we get to the year 2000 and my understanding is there was some chatter of a potential Subspecies 5 that never materialized.
Exactly.
But you were sort of like, it seemed like you were wanting to take the reins of being like, well, we have this gothic vampire romancy thing going on. I want to keep it going. And so you got involved then in the feature that you ended up directing, Vampire Resurrection, also known as Song of the Vampire, in certain markets. I had a little confusion about which was first and why, so that would be wonderful to clear up. But I'm also just like, I'm very interested in your thought process of how you got from potential, okay, maybe we'll continue Subspecies, to no, that's not happening, to now was this a student film at first? I know there's a lot to it.
Yes. Oh my gosh, you know so much. What a fantastic host you are.
Just me, not Steve.
I'll take it.
I did the you plural.
The royal you.
And
yeah.
yes, so I was approached. I'd been approached a couple times. Like I was approached by frickin' Jose Prendez, who was a high school kid. And, he offered me kind of a lot of cash. And it's the only time I'd ever done a non-union film. But he had just graduated from college. And he cast me and Linnea Quigley. And it was a film called Monster Man. And I flew to Florida. And he was like 18 or 19. And he was just a big... Sorry. He was a big Subspecies fan, and there was just, I don't know, like he kind of took care of everything that would be needed, and it was like, that kind of money, you need me for 3 days, sure. And I love the fandomness of it, and you don't get that from like, I had done an episode of Northern Exposure, and I had done an episode of Matlock, and I had I done CSI then? I'm not sure, but you don't get that sort of fandom from doing these guest stars on TV shows. I did a couple Roger Corman films. I did, Martial Law Part 2. I did, with Don the Dragon Wilson. And
right.
But again, it's the action. It's not that horror thing. And I was so charmed. And I went out and I did this totally handheld video film. And but I wound up thinking he was super cool, and I liked his crazy mind. And when I came back, I had another person reach out to me, an actor named Larry Bagby, who was he was in I Walk the Line, because he's also a musician. And he had done a couple of guest stars on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And we were doing an autograph convention. It might have been Horror Hound. And he said, look, I work at an acting school, and we're producing a film. And I think you'd be great in it. Well, when it got down to it, it turned out that film couldn't be done. And then he said, then I found out that someone else had written a film and submitted it. And he was a vampire fan and a fan of Subspecies. And I was like, oh, wow, okay. And I thought, well, I can't be in it because it's not SAG. And then I thought, if I make it SAG, modified, low budget, modified / low / you pay money to be in, then I could be in it, but it would be awesome to direct it. And at this time, not only I was being an actress, but I was being a photographer. And, I was shooting people every day. And I started doing music videos. And when the Canon 5D came out, and it had great video. Everybody's dying here in Florida.
Oh, no.
Florida man is on the rampage.
He is. And so when the Canon 5D, when digital cameras started to really be something that like anybody could make an awesome, as long as you've put some money in some good glass, you could make a great music video. So I started shooting that, and I really loved directing. And I had so many actors who I photographed that said, look, if you ever direct, I would love to work with you, because you make me feel so good. You understand the art of acting. And you also know how to pose people and how to make them look and not show their double chin or their receding hairline. Like, I really understand how to make someone look their best. And I also understand the emotion and how to get to it super fast, right? Like, and I don't know if that comes from doing a lot of B movies where you don't have a lot of time. I had worked on a film, Queen of Hearts. Who's the redhead actress? Angie Eberhard. Eberhard.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Angie Eberhard and I were in a scene together, and I had to cry immediately, and I was able to do it really fast. I had seen a lollipop on the ground in front of this house that I had to open the door, and I had gone from joking around. I looked at that lollipop stick, and it just made me think of my kid, and like, boom, right? And she was having trouble when it was her take. And I just helped her with a few things, of just looking at things in a different way. And so here I'm hoping to direct actors. Even Kevin Spiritus, in the very last scene of Subspecies 3, they're zipping me in a body bag. And he kept leaning down close to me to zip it. And Ted was like, no, you're getting too close. Just, I need you to stay away. Let Melanie zip it. And he would get another take, and he would get down, and he would get down. And then finally, and I'm just laying in this body bag, take after take, on the top of this castle, surrounded by a moat. I'm saying that. And at one point, just before they were about to do the take, I said to him, Kevin, we've never met. And right, because like he's trying to take care of Denice.
Right.
And
Okay.
This is some wackadoo Michelle, who's the sister of a girl, Becky, who he's fallen for.
Yeah.
But the sister, he's never met her. Like, they just rescued her from a castle, but he kept mixing the real world with the REEL world.
Sure.
And that was like just such an easy note to him. And that kind of magic of being a director was just so delightful to me. So that's how I decided to call when these producers, when I got the script, and I said to them, what would you think if I said I could direct it? And I said, look, I'm either going to suck at one, which is going to be horrible for both. But, either way, let me just take responsibility. And at the very least, we can bring some fun eyeballs to vampire fans.
Yeah.
And I could get, Juliette Lewis's dad, Jeffrey Lewis.
I was going to ask about that.
Yeah.
Right. And he's my Clint Eastwood analogy story. So I used to do Jeffrey Lewis's headshots, and I started to help him produce some films before he passed away. He's like, I like your moxie. You don't mind.
I love that. He looks like a guy who would say moxie. Yeah,
yes.
He sure does. Yeah.
And so one time when he came over for me to shoot his headshots, he had called as he was driving. He's like, Denice, I'm running a little late. Don't start without me. And he hangs up. I'm only shooting him, right?
Yeah.
But just that, don't start without me. And then, of course, he knocks on the door. I open it up, and I'm like, sorry, I rapped. And I closed the door, and I waited a beat. And when I opened it, he was gone. Like, he just closed it out for me for the laugh. And then he shuffles back, and he's like, look, Denice, I'm old. Let's do a lot of backlight. Lots of backlight. They don't got to see this. And so I've got him all ready. And I said, you know what? I said, Jeffrey, this is when I asked him, I'm doing this film. There's a morgue attendant. I would love for you to be in it. In fact, you live out in Westlake. So do the producers. I'll make this super easy for your driving. And he's like, anything. Anyway, and I said, so gosh, you worked with Clint Eastwood. I said, because I'm going to feel really weird saying action. Like, that is the day you go action. He goes, oh no, Clint Eastwood wouldn't say that. I go,
No.
What would he say? He'd just say, whenever you're ready. And I didn't know that. I never knew that.
I learned that recently. Apparently, it's something that he learned doing Westerns, because there were multiple incidents when the director would yell action really loud, and he would spook the horses or spook the cattle. And so he just kind of took that with him. He kind of just says in like a normal, like regular voice, just like, and whenever you're ready.
Yes. And Jeffrey literally changed his persona. Like, even just me telling you there, I had to say it that way. Like, I didn't have to. I could have just kept being Jeffrey and went, whenever you're ready. But no, it was so stuck in my mind. And of course, Jeffrey's such a good recreator of stories.
Oh, yeah.
And when he
Can
said,
only imagine.
And that, whenever you're ready. And I used it sometimes. I couldn't use it all the time, because some people kind of get used to a certain thing, but there were times that I used that. And so I tried to put some little Easter eggs I did like a Ted Nicolaus bookstore, or Nicolaus bookstore.
Yeah.
It was so sad to me that the editors did not crop out the boom mic.
I was going to say, like, this really, my impression watching this movie was that this was a movie where you got really kind of screwed over by the post-production and by the aspect ratio that they decided to release it in.
Well, Steve.
Yeah.
Whenever you're ready. just tell us some stats real quick about the movie we're talking about, and we'll get
Well,
right
absolutely.
back into this.
Yeah, Vampire Resurrection, aka Song of the Vampire, released November 11th, 2003, directed by Denice Duff, written by Rob Ford and Jose Prentice, and it stars Denice Duff, James Horan, Gillian McWhirter, Frank Broinbuck, Marilyn O'Connor, Julie Michaels, and Jeffrey Lewis. Yes, so little bit about that. And from what I understand, you shot this a few years before it got released, right? This got delayed for a little bit.
Yeah, I shot it, and then I didn't have like all the editing money, and I went to the AFM, American Film Market, in at the Lowe's Theaters, the Lowe's Hotel in Santa Monica. And there's 4 days that it goes on, this film festival, maybe 5, and all of Europe comes together, and they buy films, sell films. And I was told, if you go there, don't go at the first few days, because they're looking to sell film, right? All these production houses are looking to sell to all these European buyers. Go the last couple days. And so I got a press pass from Femme Fatale magazine. Cool. Because I was a photographer for them. So instead of paying the $600, I was able to get a press pass. I wore a very short skirt, a little ample cleavage. And because again, this was 2002, there weren't a lot of female directors, and I just needed some attention. And of course, I'm going to get myself totally in trouble for saying that. But personally, I was actually treated so well and with such respect, being a woman who was so excited to be making this film. I never had anybody not help me because I was a woman. And I also never had anyone try and take advantage of me either. It's really, I'm a big girl, but I know that we women have different energy, and there's something lovely about our energy, and it's very different from dudes. And so I would go from room to room, and I would say, I've got a film. I need money to edit it. And they'd say, oh, you need finishing funds. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I made a note of that, went to the next room. Hi, I've got a film. I need finishing funds. And they're like, is it video or 35 millimeter? I'm like, it's 35 millimeter. They're like, oh, that's great. Okay. They like that. Made a note, go to the next room. Hi, I've got 35 millimeter film. I need finishing funds. And they're like, is it completed product? I'm like, what do you mean? Like, well, is everything? Yeah, it's all shot. Oh, completed product. That's another thing. So I went to the fourth room. Hi, I've got completed product. It's 35 millimeter film. I need finishing funds. And by like the 10th room, I had a taker. And then the very last room was full moon. And I thought, let me just meet with them too. And so it was a little bit of a toss up between the two. And I went with full moon, right? So this literally was not funded by them. It was about $100,000 to do this. The owners who put this together have a film school. They have a beautiful home in New Orleans. They have a beautiful ranch in Westlake. And so we got to use all of that, but with a student crew. And that's how that whole thing happened. And so Charlie bought it, but it was very fast in the editing. I
love the idea that you're learning like the film business, just room to room to room. You're just kind of like you're snowballing it from room to room. It's like, oh, okay, I've got a new term. And then like by the time you're in the 5th room, you sound like you know exactly what you're talking about. And like, yeah. I love that.
Good. And I want people to know that. Like, you really can. You just need to know. You could teach a whole class. You just need to know like 2 days ahead of the class lecture that you're teaching,
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. I mean, how did you feel about your overall like experience? How long did you have to shoot this? Do you recall?
Oh, we did it maybe 3-4 weeks.
Okay, pretty quick. Pretty quick turnaround. Yeah, not bad for a full moon movie. Yeah, for sure.
The love scene was a funny day. It was like, okay, I've got to get naked here. It was the only day that I not shadowboard, storyboarded.
Oh, sure.
I just wanted to make, I wanted it to look cute, and I didn't, so I'm like, all right, cameraman, this is what I want you to get here. And I just remembered having to like strip down to I'm like, here it is, guys. Here's my bubbies. Here's my butt. Got it. Good. Okay.
Can we move on? Thank you. Yeah.
I'm going to be yelling.
Demystify this shit. Come on. Yeah.
Totally.
So, again, so fun to be able to it's everything I love about being an actress, everything I love about being a photographer, a mother. Like, I love directing so much. And I didn't do the greatest job. I think I failed the most in that I wouldn't make a strict decision. And I remember the producer, who was an older woman, who she did the husband and wife team did a lot of practical special effects in films like The Fight Club, and like major films.
Mhm.
So she's been on huge sets, and she's like, Denice, you just need, just make the decision whether it's right or wrong. I'd get a little nervous to, like, is this going to be right? And then the other thing that I did not so good the first week was I would forget to break for meals, because I'm a vampire. I don't eat a whole lot if I'm being really creative, but you forget the rest of your crew, especially people hanging out.
Yeah.
But when you're super busy and you're in the creative zone, food is kind of the least thing you're thinking of.
Yeah.
So feed your crew.
Feed your crew.
Yeah. I read, and it came from the video aisle, about, when you mentioned before about how you were sort of done dirty by the editors in terms of like aspect ratio, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And you have a very candid pulled quote, and it came from the video aisle, about when you first saw the finished product. And I'm very interested in, like, as you get older and you try, and maybe, you said there are things you recognize that you don't think you did well. So I'll use the word fail, but I don't really mean fail.
Right.
I guess grow. But,
Miss the mark.
yeah, as you get older, like,
Not
I'm interested
sumptuous.
in how not
My
sumptuous.
unsumptuous
It was
choice.
lacking a certain
That's-
sumptuosity
Yeah,
that I
that's
think
the that's the
would
pull quote.
nowadays, it would be
Yeah.
sumptuous out the gills,
Well,
It'd be
that's
with
the pull
sumptuousness.
quote that's attributed to me on the back of the VHS. It just says, quote, not sumptuous, Jared Hornby. No, but I just, like, I wonder if, like, a more seasoned, like, do you think, like, you would have been able to kind of, like, I mean, I think you probably bounced back from it pretty well, but it sounded like it upset you, how it ended up coming out. So I'm just, as you get older and you get more practice and things, like how you bounce back from things like that, how you take things and learn from them, how that changes as you get older. Like, do you feel like, if you were to direct a movie now and have these problems in post or problems in editing, do you find that you'd react the same way, or do you think your mindset is different now?
Oh gosh, I mean, I was in rehab over this for years. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
I fortunately, I keep myself really creatively busy, and that's been my therapy. Is I just keep myself busy, whether I'm being paid or not. I'm running a skincare company here. I'm taking the photos. I'm making the videos tonight. As soon as we finish this, I have an audition for Will Trent for a guest star role on Will
cool.
Trent.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So it's, I just have to always move on to the next thing, because I could tear everything apart and go, my gosh, I had an opportunity. I was given $100,000 to make I had great actors, all of the things. And what's that going to do? It's going to give me wrinkles,
Mm-hmm.
And, but I definitely think, you live or you learn, you don't lose, and I love that I got to learn, from doing that. And it's really, you can sit in an acting, a filmmaking school for 4 years, or you could make a film and learn it that way. And I really do love, I do get reached out to by different filmmakers, and it hasn't quite worked out, just time wise of, I've got a company here that, I've got a lot of people's salaries that I'm responsible for. And, and so it's tough for me to kind of do some of these smaller independent little films. But they're being done. And I love that, because they're learning. And out here in Tampa, there's a couple, it's like Tampa Bay Screams. It's a little convention, a yearly convention. And when I first went to it in 2019, and I thought, God, this is really small, right? Like, there's like 9 tables and I don't recognize anyone here. I mean, I think maybe, and then Brink was there. but I was like, wow, this is, and then the following year, no, the following year was 2020. The year after that, I found myself living here. I wound up having to live here because my mom was here, and then I helped her, and then unfortunately she passed. And I went back to that same convention, and now I'm looking at these people a little different, and it's the same people, and they all know each other, and they're all filmmakers, and they all cast each other. And, you know, they all have day jobs. They make good money, but what do they do on their weekends and their vacations? They make horror films. And when you're living in Los Angeles, it's a lot more serious. You know, it's like, if you're not working, you know, at the top of some major production and making tons of cash, you're not really an artist, you know?
Right.
And all of that prejudice sort of was off, seeing the film industry here in Tampa of, it's really just your love of wanting to create something. And that's at this time in my life, what I would take with me is you get rid of all the seriousness and your own desire to be liked and admired. That's not what it's about anymore. You know, I just wrote a little short essay that I spoke when I did my birthday party a few weeks ago, and I picked 6 different moments in my life. And one of them was the difference of how I was with Denice in part 2 and 3 and 4, and how I was with him in part 5.
Which I think is a beautiful opportunity for us to transition over to Subspecies 5, Blood Rise, which was released March 25th, 2023, directed and written by Ted Nicolau and starring Denice Duff, Anders Hove, Kevin Spiritus, Stasa Nikolic, Julia Gaunt, Petar Arsek, again, I'm butchering these, Olivera Pernucik, and Marko Filipovic. Now, this movie came out 25 years on the dot since the previous Subspecies movie. And how cool was it to see the series come roaring back with one of the biggest budgets that a full moon movie had gotten in years, with a bigger promotional push, and with an actual honest-to-God theatrical release.
I saw it in the theater. I saw it at
Did
Alamo
you?
Draft House in Brooklyn with the little cast and crew featurette at the end.
Oh.
There was a good crowd. People were excited to see not only a Subspecies movie, but a full moon movie on the big screen. Yeah, that was a really fun thing to be part of.
Yeah, I hit a screening here in Austin as well, so it was awesome that we got to do that. It was awesome that we got that opportunity.
I
did
the LA one. I did the LA
yeah.
one, and I brought my friend Nancy Cartwright, who does Bart Simpson.
Oh yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
So she got to go to the LA one, and where Charlie Band was. Just, I mean, just you understand, like, how insane, what person, what actress gets to go back 25 years later, and what a perfect way to do it. Go back in time. So now I don't need to look exactly like Michelle. You know, I'm her pre-incarnated version. Makes perfect sense.
It's such a cool approach to this. Now, we talked a little bit how you mentioned that there was talks for another movie all the way back in early 2000. Yep. And they were, you know, they wanted something to happen, but as we've covered on the show, that stretch from like 2000 to 2005 is when the budgets were stretched to their absolute minimum. Movies were getting made for like $20,000 in like 5 days.
So 20, 30,000. Yes.
Real tiny budgets. And that's just, you know, you can make that fly with some things. I don't think you can make that fly with the Subspecies movie. So, you know, they kind of kept bouncing the idea around. In 2010, Charles Band gave an interview saying that the script had been completed and the original team was interested in coming back. But again, financing proved to be a little bit of a struggle. They had to have a little bit of like their bounce back period. I think at the post kind of full moon streaming, I think they finally started finding their mojo again. And they found like, I think the lower end like digital technology was finally starting to look like a higher end movie, you know, like the more you could make a good looking movie on an affordable camera at this time. So that really helped with a lot of low budget filming.
Yep.
So finally, you were able to get enough funding together for the movie. And Charles Band announced it as part of Full Moon's Deadly 10 initiative, which most of which have come out at this point. I think there's 2 or 3 that are still in the ether, but so shooting was planned for Croatia in 2019. But from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, from what I understand, that the delays got pushed because of COVID. You were no longer able to film in Croatia, and so you moved over to Serbia. Is that correct? Do I have Okay, cool.
Yeah, Albania is Croatia in Albania?
Oh, well, was
borders
yeah,
is
was Albania?
Yeah.
It was Albania. Yeah.
Okay, Albania was kind of near in the conversation as well. Okay, yeah. So the first time a Subspecies movie is not being filmed in Romania. Do you know why you weren't able to go back to Romania, or just did?
Well, from what I heard, Romania was a little more expensive.
Oh, okay.
And Serbia had some really great old castles.
Sure.
And since this film goes back to like the 1500s, they actually had those castles there.
I mean, I thought it kind of worked out really well. I can't comment for how the locations you were looking at worked out, but the Serbian locations that you shot in, like really lovely, like kind of storybook forests. You know, it looks very untouched. It looks perfect for like the medieval setting that you're embracing with this one.
Sure does.
And I just think this is such a cool way to do kind of like a years later sequel where you're bringing back the whole crew, but for the most part, you're mixing up your roles. Even Anders, who is playing the same role ostensibly, is getting to bring new levels to it. We're getting to see him at different bits in his life. So we're not like beating this Michelle thing into the ground. Instead, we're going all the way back at the beginning. You get to play an entirely different character. And it's a total like the hunted has become the hunter sort of vibe, which had to have been fun to play, right?
You get to feast, by the way. On the second part of Helena there in this movie with the what's the word for why am I blanking on the word for them? Not underlings. What do you call the
fledglings?
Fledglings.
Yeah. When you're with the two fledglings, especially, you get to just feast on some of that, and you look like you're just having an absolute ball.
Yeah.
And then you have
this movie.
And then you have Kevin coming back, which is so cool. And he is unrecognizable. He is getting to play the full on like Nosferatu like villain under heavy makeup. And he is just eating. He is having a ball. And
I think I
so
said
evil
this
and so fun.
When we had you guys on, I think I said this, that I remember being like, oh, and Kevin Spiritus is in this one too. And it wasn't until like he is back in the movie again, like an hour and 8 minutes into the movie, that I realized he was King Vladislav.
Yeah, we're like, wait, there's an economy of characters going on here. Where is Kevin? Yeah, did not recognize him until
I mean, I wish my phone would record every FaceTime I've ever done. Well, not every FaceTime.
Yeah.
But because when I was doing I think I was FaceTiming Ted for something. And so then like it was we're doing an interview or whatever, but I got Kevin on FaceTime, and because I said to Ted, I was like, it's okay, like whatever budget like you have, he'll want to work. Because when I found out, like, I'm like, really, what, it's money and you don't know about the part. And then he said, I mean, the only part that we're looking for is Vladislav. I mean, he'd have to wear a lot of ugly makeup. I'm like, he would love that. He's a theater guy, just an actor in general. What person doesn't want to do that, right? And but I said, but to be with us, and also we've been doing all of these conventions over the last 15 years when we can get Honest over, or me and Kevin, and that's all we talk about is Sub 5 going to happen, is Sub 5. For 15 years, we've been talking about this with all these conventions that we do to spread the word in hopes that something magical will happen, that some super rich fan will drop, 300,000 down and we'll get to do this. And it was always with me and Kevin and Ted and Honest. And so then when the day came and I'm like, what? No. And so that was my, like, we have to make this happen. And also he brings like a great cachet to the series. He's got his own horror film fans from his Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
And then he's got his daytime soap fans, and it just, as the producer in me also felt it would be wise. I said it's wise to
I mean, he has his own audience for sure. Yeah.
And well, he also has, I mean, I think it might have even gotten more so since we had him on the show, but his series was so well received that he produced recently, and I think stars in as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Got very, very good reviews, to my understanding.
Yeah. They got a bunch of Emmys from first season, you know, and that was the other thing. I said, Ted, I'm like, look, he got a bunch of Emmys now, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So it was so, so beautiful. I mean, the tears of joy, the laughter, and, you know, it was, yeah.
Well, it's great to see this side of, is it, okay, I've been pronouncing it wrong this whole time. It's Honors?
Or
Honest.
Honest. Okay, yeah, I'm getting that wrong every time. But yeah, we get to see a real different side of him as well, because the only thing we've really seen from him throughout this entire series is him under the heavy Radu makeup with the long fingers, and he's got his voice like this, and he can't really, like, you're not really getting a sense of like what he looks or sounds like. And then you're seeing this guy, it's like, man, this guy's got a great face, he's got a great voice. Like, it's so nice to see him like out of it and getting this kind of origin story for this character. You know, we got to spend a good amount of time with him as like this sort of stoic knight before he becomes the monster, or rather before you turn him into what he ultimately became in a great little bit of like horror irony, you know, like, yeah.
And they were going to, he had a wig. There was a whole thing a year before that he'd wear like a wig because he's sort of the younger self. And literally the day before shooting started, he's just like, fuck it, I'm not wearing this, you know. It just, I mean, as it is, his fingers, those gloves, that whether it was gloves in one film and then it was glued on single digits, like the gloves were always a situation of like picking up stuff or strangling someone, and without the rubber digit falling all back, and because they're extensions in some way, whether it's a whole glove or individual. And it was just, we didn't want to compound his frustration with hair that was moving and wasn't right.
Yeah.
So he just, you know, because people said to me like, wow, he, you know, it's weird because it goes back. And I'm like, you know what? He's a vampire. You know, it's just, you just suspend belief of everything. And to be honest, it was a very, very small percentage of people who even question that, you know?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Like, and that scene, my favorite scene with him was when he's speaking to Stefan, and Stefan, you know, asks him, are you going to have to kill my mother? And, you know, and just the in time and it was just so beautiful. And I was watching them film it, and I was looking at the monitor because they were, you know, a little further away. And I just got all teary eyed. Like, it was just like, and of course, my character always to me it's a junkie. I'm a druggie. I've got some addiction to something. And that could be very real. That could be very real that, I am, you know, when he said, is she dying? And he said, she is, and she will, you know, but just the compassion that he had for her it was so believable. It wasn't a monster. It wasn't a vampire talking about a fledgling. It was a real man talking about a woman who was dying.
Absolutely. I think this kind of brought back some of the emotional stakes that maybe were a little missing from 4. You know, it felt and it felt like it had it had the sumptuousness of the Subspecies series, but it's also not relying on the same visuals. It's not relying on the same narrative. It does have a different tone. It does feel like a different vibe.
Oh, and the lighting is so different. It's so
gorgeous.
A lot of flickering lights. Really, I was watching it this time for the show. Like I said, I had seen it on the big screen. I think I watched it sort of in preparation, even though we weren't gonna cover it when you two were on the show. But this was the first time since then that I watched it, and that was really the thing that jumped out at me the most this time, was the flickering lighting and how beautiful a lot of it really is.
I just you know, I mean, my camera roll of like,
beautiful,
just the fires and the nighttime shooting, and you know,
he looks so cool in that.
He's hugging someone, you know.
I mean, and how cool too, because you guys hadn't really worked on anything like all together since Subspecies 3, right? Like, with all of you together with like the whole gang. Like it had been close to like almost 30 years since you guys had all gotten to do a movie together, and that must have just been such a ball. Like,
there's a real infectious energy, I feel like, in Subspecies 5. It feels like everyone is there. giving it their all. I think we kind of mentioned this maybe when we were interviewing you and Kevin, but it was like it seemed like the relationship that was a very was almost a mentorship with the new young actors playing
Yeah.
Ariel and Ash, who I think are both quite good in the movie.
Yeah,
and
still,
I
still
think
working. Yeah, both of them are still
Yeah.
like working Croatian actor or Serbian actors. Yeah, yeah.
And I know one of the people, Denice, who I did not know at the time, who maybe made the transitions, in Serbia a little easier to deal with. Your one of your American producers, Seeger Dixon.
Oh,
who
yeah, yeah.
is somebody who you dropped his name on the show, and I sought him out to find him because he's a Brooklyn guy, and I've seen him a number of times since then.
Yeah, yeah.
Like we just run at the same events. He produced an Addams Family movie recently, and I was at the IFC premiere for that. I saw him. I've seen him at a handful of things, and just kind of even in passing. And it was so funny because we said when we met each other, we were like, we most definitely have been at the same things, and we just didn't. And Justin too. Justin, I don't really see out, but like I know Justin is doing a lot of producing overseas. But Seeger has done stuff here where I've just run into him at events, and we know the same people. And when you said their names, I was kind of surprised. I didn't know who they were, but since that happened, I've seen him a number of times.
We were so lucky. I mean, and that story right there, the fact that they were Subspecies fans, and that was always my dream, was that I knew somehow that this series, if it was going to happen, yes, it would have to be through Full Moon. We couldn't, there was always talk of like, all right, how do we take this away from Charlie and do a different thing? And we don't want to do that, like it's his thing, and we just need to get Charlie money. It's got to stay at Full Moon or whatever Charlie's calling it at that time. It will always be a Charlie property, and but we need an angel, and I felt like it was going to come from a fan. And of course it wasn't just a person, it was some success too that Full Moon was having with streaming and all, Amazon Prime and all the goodness, but the fans really did keep that good pressure, and that this is a viable series. And then the fact that Seeger, was such a fan and really went above and beyond to find these locations, and it wasn't just a paycheck for him,
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so excited. I mean, we could keep you here all night, and I know you've got some things to get to. I think we got some things to get to as well, but I do want to ask, in your opinion, in your machinations, in any sense of your participation, do you think this is the last we've heard of Subspecies, or do you think it's coming back? Are we gonna be revisiting this series once again?
I tell you, at the first release of it, when we went to the Ohio convention and we did a panel, that was the very first question from the audience was, when is part 6 coming?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Ted sort of sees it as fleshing out some of that era still,
So it's kind of staying in that like medieval, sort of passing the torch to like these new vampire characters.
Exactly, which makes sense because you give someone it takes someone a little bit to kind of get to know, just like it actually would have been nice to. Is Jonathan Morris still alive?
I believe he is. Let me double check.
We're at that state in our thing. It's like, are people alive? So I'm just going to hold on hope. I'm just going to keep using my face creams and, keeping my hair nice and healthy so I don't have to Howard Stern it.
You don't want to go back to that look?
I'm not cutting it, and I will be ready to report to set, sir, because, I do these conventions and I literally have 3 generations of fans, and it's the cutest flipping thing ever.
It's got to be super cool. And Jonathan Morris is still alive, so yeah, absolutely good. We'll take him out. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I love thinking about the idea of a potential continuation of the Subspecies series. If you are someone who tunes in week to week and you enjoy the show, the best way that you can show us is by going to Apple Podcasts or Spotify, leaving a 5-star rating, maybe writing a brief review if you feel so inclined to do so. You can comment on Spotify directly to episodes, and we're pretty good at seeing and responding to those. If you have any questions, feedback, anything, you can email us at puppetmasterscastlefreaks@gmail.com. If you want to keep up on the daily with what we're doing, the best way to do that is on Instagram. You can follow the show at puppetmasters_castlefreaks. You can follow me at _Giallo_Jared or Steve at Minotaur Matador. There's also Threads and Blue Sky, our Facebook group, audio versions of the show on YouTube. Now, this is normally when I hand it over to Steve to promote his other podcast, but I realized that we kind of leapfrogged over what we sometimes do, which is Denice, where can people find you? And is there anything that you want to plug that for our listeners to hear before we wrap up?
I'm easy. Denice Duff, Denice with a C, Denice Duff at Instagram, Denice Duff at Facebook. Yes.
In Your Face skincare, highly acclaimed brand, actually.
Yes, yeah. we just got our second year of the Inc. 5000. Ooh. And I just 2 days ago released on Amazon a book called Naturally Skinny My Ass.
Hey.
Oh.
So I haven't, I'm still needing like reviews. I'll be doing a bigger launch of it, but it just went live. And because I feel like, I have a very unique, fun way of being healthy. It doesn't involve, it's not paleo, it's not vegetarian, it's not full meat, but you can do any of that. But this is just my way of looking at healthy lifestyle.
Excellent.
Through the vampire eyes.
Oh, I see. I like that aspect of it. I like that approach to this weight loss book. But if you go
I would love
Amazon,
that there was like a
review.
Yeah, I would love that there was a meta narrative where it's just like, oh yeah, how do I stay so young looking? I'm literally actually a vampire. I will hunt and kill you.
Yeah.
Every convention I do, they shake my hand and they look and they're looking and they're like, wait, when did you do these films? I'm like, I know.
Right. Yeah.
That was 1992, guys. I'm really a freaking vampire.
Exactly.
It's the ultimate compliment. So go review that book and review our show. But we're not the only show that Steve likes to plug. So Steve, what else have you got going on?
Well, I also host a show called Cinema Arcade, which is the cinema and arcade mashed together. That is what we do. We are watching movies and then playing the video games based on those movies because we are deeply weird and insane and we like punishing ourselves. It mostly gives us a really good opportunity to talk about a huge range of movies that we'll never touch on this show. Things like Lord of the Rings, The Hustler, starring Paul Newman. Yes, there's a video game of that. We've got episodes coming up on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We get a whole wide range that we get to cover on that show, which is always very exciting. But you know what? We get to cover a wide range on this show too, as demonstrated by our episode next week, when we will be talking about a 1983 sci-fi action film called Metalstorm: The Destruction of Jared Sin. Great title. Love that title. Was eventually.
I don't love it. It implies my destruction. So I'm not a huge fan personally.
Yeah. Well, I don't know why you never use your full first name, like with the hyphenated SYN, like it's just, you're just leading to that confusion. People aren't going to be able to guess that.
Yeah.
But we get to do that episode with Gina Radcliffe from the Kill by Kill podcast, who we love. She's awesome. Really good time. Fun movie to talk about. So tune in next week to witness the destruction of Jared Sin once and for all.
I suppose I should sign off and say goodbye to all the listeners then, since they won't be hearing me anymore.
He'll be destroyed.
I just want to say thank you again to everyone who listens every week. And thank you to Denice for coming back on the show and, being so generous with your time. We literally could have listened for another hour and a half of stories and stuff, but we know you have places to be. Our listeners have places to be. Believe it or not, us two losers have places to be as well.
Somehow.
So thank
but
you
I would say,
again.
Denice, you've been absolutely sumptuous with your time. Thank you so much.
God damn it.
I was going to say that. I was going to say it was a sumptuous day.
Oh, I'm sorry. I stepped on your toes.
That's about the best time to stop recording.